All righty. Morning, Mark. I
Good morning.
think we're kicking off with you.
All right. Thanks for waiting for me. Sorry, I was a little bit late there. Just jump right into Diane talking about our advisory board handbook in criminal background check language.
Good morning.
Morning.
So in your packet, I have the amended advisory board handbook to include language of a criminal background check. And then we've amended the application to include that language. And we've set up a program through the Washington State Patrol for, it's called the Watch Search. It's for background investigation, and it's in Washington State only. So it's records throughout the state of Washington only, and it includes conviction information, arrests less than 1 year old with dispositions pending, and information regarding registered sex and kidnap offenders. And each background check is $11, which after talking in our staff meeting, we would recommend that whatever department's responsible for that advisory board would pick up this cost.
Mr. Chair, the one question I have that was brought to my attention after the fact, if we're going to do this for our volunteers, we need to do this for our staff. We should not be hiring people without going through background checks, but having a citizen volunteer, making them go through a hoop that nobody else is going through. That doesn't make much sense to me.
That came up in our staff meeting. Yes.
Did it?
Yes.
Great. I think that's a worthwhile conversation. I don't think that they should be mutually exclusive.
So what did staff do?
Mary in HR, she noted that that's not a requirement of employment here for a lot of our positions. And we didn't really come up with a solution, but it did come up. So I guess I'll let Mark weigh in on that one.
Exactly what you said, Commissioner Netherland. It was if we're gonna do it for advisory board members, then it definitely lays the groundwork for doing it for our employees also.
The only thing I would add is if that is something that is explored, we need to think through what the threshold is and what exactly we would be not moving forward with a candidate based on, and kind of thinking through that. So that would just be that second piece is one, if we do it, and two, what criteria are we actually measuring on without violating RCW.
If we do this, will these documents be part of the public record for public record requests?
They are part of the exemption in the personnel file.
What if it's not personnel? If they're an advisory board member, that's not personnel.
Oh, I thought you meant for employees. I'm sorry.
No, both.
So for a potential employee, it'd be part of the personnel file. For boards, I would defer to Diane. I'm not really sure the exemptions on that.
I would have to check with Tim Whitehead, but I know when we were setting up with that watch program, it does say conviction data may be released without restriction. So that's how
So
we.
in that case, wouldn't it already be a public record if you had a conviction?
I think so, because it says non-conviction information is not available to the public, but I think it is releasable in that's how we can set up an account and go in and ask for these investigations. But I would certainly, if we were going to go down this road, I would check with Whitehead to make sure that we would need to release it if it was asked.
Can we table this till we go through all the different options on this to make sure we do this right? I definitely don't want to be hurting people. I want to make sure that we protect everybody if we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Dan.
I'll go right ahead and check then on the public records part. And then does that mean you want it to come back with something from HR on the employee side also?
I think it should. If we're going to do it, we should do it countywide or not do it.
I'm comfortable with going down that path. Just kind of adhering to best practices and what's appropriate there. I would also, Diane, maybe just check with the sheriff's office. I mean, they have a lot of volunteers that have to go through more extensive background checks than what's being proposed here, and so just how they're handling that record information, I think might be informative as well.
Yes, I'll check it. I'll check with Chief Byer. Okay, so I'll work with Mary on when we'll bring it back.
At the state level, I always had to go through a background check, and I know other employees have done the same thing too. So I don't think it's unusual to do it. I think it's just something that Mason County is progressing, and the world is changing. So I think it's definitely something that we need to look into.
Yeah, and I think certainly too, when we're seeking applicants for advisory boards, or even have applicants for employment where different elements of their job involve lived experience in different areas. I think there's certainly some I don't want to say wiggle room, but I mean certainly some considerations made for certain types of things that may arise in people's backgrounds when you go through this process. So I think having a more full review of that is appropriate on the employment side and on the advisory board side.
Okay. And my next item is in our county code. It was established back in 2007. This program is called the Park Development Partnership Program, and it allows public entities to apply for up to $50,000 in funding from Mason County to improve public parks. And it's a program that I have never known to be used. I don't even know where this $50,000 would come from in the county. So I'm suggesting it be removed from county code.
I was going to ask what and who would be eligible and stuff like that, but if you've never seen it in all your years, I know I haven't. I would assume it would be 09 funds or something.
Back in the day, it might have been when, because we had the REIT 2, and originally that was established to fund the parks program. But then we know now that, we use it for more than that. But I've never known it to be used, and we've certainly never earmarked any funding for this program.
In the past, I remember Grapeview doing an application or request, but I think that was 09 funds as well. So I don't know that it would come underneath this as much as it would just allocations out of 09 or.
Yes, we have received, some 0.09 over the years from the ports.
But even if we did away with this, that's still in place, right?
Yes, you can still do that.
I'm good with removing it. If we've never used it, it's like having, a horse and buggy law. Not very many horse and buggies out there anymore. So less, in my opinion, is better.
I'm trying to think who we'd even do it to, because if the ports, which can already do 09, they're the ones that have parks. Homeowners associations, that'd be a gifting of public funds. We'd have to be careful with something like that. So I don't know that would have applied. And I can't think of anybody else who would even have a park that we can give money to. Now, back then, there probably was a lot of options, but I don't know of any now.
We also have the RCO grants too, right? So that can be applied for. So there's other funding abilities, other options.
Yes.
So we're not taking something away that can't.
Right. This was strictly, in the county.
Right.
And public parks,
Right.
Yeah.
not private.
Yep, I'm good removing it.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. So next we have a whole slew. John Taylor has been busy. So John, I'm going to let you jump right into talking about the RCO grants for Sandhill and Union Parks.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, commissioners. I'll try to be brief. I have several items, so I'll get on with it. The status of the RCO grant for Sandhill and Union. The final results came out Friday morning to confirm. Sandhill, we were 11 out of 34 applications that were submitted, but we did get a grant for $350,000. The Sandhill, and that out of the second grant we applied for Sandhill was the Washington Wildlife Recreation Program, and we came out 40 out of 59, and there was nothing awarded there. The Union Park was part of that as well, and they came out 47 out of 59. So moving forward, the budget estimation for Sandhill is 1.118 million. With the 350,000 out of that would be 4.768 million. That's what would be remaining if we move forward with the projects. Union Park with nothing awarded for the grant is 1.374 million. So together that's a substantial amount, but what we're asking is a decision whether we move forward either with both one or the other or not at all. So we're submitting that for your decision. Any questions?
Just if you don't mind, the numbers again, how much would still be outstanding on Sandhill?
4.768.
That's what I thought I heard you say. Okay. Union Park, we had some discussions. We were walking around there that maybe that could be dialed back down a little bit with some of the stuff we do, and perhaps it comes to a number that we can maybe afford. You know, I'm Sandhill, the district. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't see the county throwing that kind of money without more help. I want that field very badly, but I think it would not be prudent use of the money that we have and the abilities that we have for the amount of money that they're asking without more granting and some other options. That's just too much money for what we can afford to do. While we were up there, Commissioner Trask, you and I had a discussion on a piece of property that was up there. I'd love to set an executive session to have a discussion about property and acquisition and perhaps a price setting. If the commission would be okay with that, just so we can have a further discussion on that.
Yeah, I think that would be a discussion I would love to have. I think it's an option that I think it's a pretty good option, honestly. So John, can you tell me, so the 350,000, we've got that grant, how soon do we have to use that? Or
the schedule, they're still in preliminary, so the project probably would not come due, and Diane, correct me from what your knowledge is, probably until the latter part of 23, the beginning of 24.
okay, so we can hold off on that also. And then remind me too, what was the grant? How could we use it? You know, if we keep it for Sandhill, are there other things that we can use that for? Because I know that when you took us on the park tours, thank you so much for doing that. That was amazing, and dang, Mason County has some pretty cool parks. But if you can remind me what that grant could be used for, is it just for the turf, for the fields?
Yes, ma'am. We had some issues with Union Park, so I went in from some of the residents, went in to see what the latitude was in the grant. And based on the application we submitted, now we could change Union, but that would be, of course, a cost for someone to come in and change those plans. For Sandhill, it's pretty set unless we pull our application.
Gotcha.
On that, can we utilize that money for a very complete and thorough plan and design? And then what would our match be if we were to do that? And could we then also go for construction grants after the fact, after we have complete design, including, you know, elevation, including design for water filtration and the like?
Well, sir, what I'll do is go in and ask the RCO. The guidelines were pretty stringent, that once the application was submitted in its application form, if we were awarded a grant, then it locks that application. So it would be based on that project right there. But that does not stop us from going in for other grants that may be out there to help supplement the remaining amount to make that project happen.
And that's what I mean. Could we use that specifically? Could we use that money, the 300,000, for complete structural design and, you know, have it ready for construction? Because it's going to cost a lot of money to do all that, figure out all the elevation, the filtration of the water systems for drainage and all for those type of fields. That's not free. That's going to be a lot. Could we utilize those monies for that, for the design that you put in?
From my understanding, sir, is that's what we did when we had Bob Droll's group do the field layout, but that was what we submitted.
Yeah, they did the field layout, but I'm sure they didn't do the drainage and everything else. That's a whole different.
So I'm not sure. We'll have to research that.
Yeah,
Yes,
and that
Mark-
350,000 is youth athletic field. It's a YAF grant. So it would definitely have to be used for the field. And I guess I'm not following Commissioner Netherland because
Okay.
it was the design of that multi-purpose field as a whole. Are you thinking just to isolate it down? Oh, I see Mark's hands up.
Thanks, Dan. And Commissioner Netherland, you can correct me if I'm wrong. What I heard Commissioner Netherland asking for is, could we use that $350,000 to actually do the design of what it would take to actually construct what we presented? So basically come up with construction drawings. My answer to you, Commissioner Netherland, was I would be concerned that if we didn't move forward with the entire project, then they may come back and say we have to pay that $350,000 back.
But what I'm hoping or wondering is if we can, you know, over all my years here, we've had times where we've gone back for different grants and got more monies later and stuff. At this point now, for the county just to commit, you know, to commit $4.768 million out of our funds, out of our REIT, is a lot. But it's one thing to go with this phase with the idea that we're going to do it, because I do believe we should do it eventually. I think we have to do it eventually. Once we go through the process, and then we get more grant money for construction. We've gotten, you know, in other times, another $500,000 for just handling drainage and stuff up at the school. So I know that we can do these type of grants and get them for doing pieces of it and go through a process of an 8-year period or a 6-year period of construction. If we can use that money for the actual design, because I think that's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I would agree. Yeah, I think that would be my only concern, is that if we didn't then follow through, then we may have to pay it back. But I do think that we could continue to look for opportunities for funding for these types of projects.
And as for Union, as we said, we're going through there. That park is in an area that, in my opinion, has been a piece that needs more park space up there for the amount of people that are there and coming in. And after the downturn in the economy, there was a shift. That used to be a very, very retired area, but there are a lot more kids that have come in there over the last so many years. And I think having that park space is more of a necessity now. And we need to make sure that these monies go through the 3 different districts. And I'd be supportive of moving forward with something, maybe not the exact design we talked about for the size, if we're not going to have any money to come in, but to upgrade some of those parks. I definitely would love to see us put in that swing set at the request of that citizen at the very minimum immediately. But
I think that there's some updates that we can do without having to redo completely the parks. I'd rather look at cheaper options for now, especially with the economy going the way that it's going. I'd rather play it safe than say, oh crap, what have we done?
what do we have that is specific for in our REITs for the parks? What are we working with that is unencumbered?
Every year we budget $1 million for capital projects.
Mhm.
And then when we did project out into like basically into 24, I know we had the numbers in there if we had to end up paying for the proposed costs for both of these projects. But I know too, it did pretty much then take up anything that's not already budgeted.
So we're at about 5 million. What we have, 5.5 to 6 million. Is that what you saw?
Yes.
That's what I remember.
But too, like Commissioner Tusk said, with the economy, will the revenues come in like we projected?
No. Home sales have to go down now. I don't want them to, but they have to. So, I take it back. Homes will sell. They'll just sell for less. Homes always sell.
They will sell, but I just want to make sure that we've got the money to keep our employees and not have to do some uncomfortable or make some uncomfortable decisions. So if we're conservative right now, it'll be better for us down the road.
But we do have millions that we're already in there, and we should be moving forward with some of the different things. I myself, one of the projects not on here, I know we definitely need to talk about the upgrade up at Sandhill Field. Commissioner Trask, you saw how bad those fields are. You saw there's still rocks that have to be picked up for the kids to play, and how bad the grass is out there. Eventually, we need to do something there, and it'd be nice to have a playground. Maybe that's what we look at within the dollars that we do have.
I think I'd rather look at options like that for now.
So more rehabbing what we have and then improving the area that we have.
Yeah, I'm one of three, but that's the direction I would rather go.
Well, at an 8% or 7% match from the state, I don't think we can afford to do the new one. There is a group up there, by the way, commissioners, that maybe it's time to start pulling together. I had a conversation with the school, and they were looking at looking to do some type of infrastructure for parks and partnerships. There's a family entity that I've talked with over the years, and it may be time to pull all them together. And then what we do is help provide maybe some matching or something. I always just worry about one of the things they'd like to do is they always want to talk about a pool. Although I would love to have a pool and wish we had YMCA up there so they had access to it and stuff. I do know the liabilities that come with it and the costs that come with it. And I always am afraid of that when it comes to the county, because that's our job now if it becomes us. But if somebody else is running it and the like, then it's worth looking at, I think. I just don't know that I would love to have it, but I just don't know that I'd love the county to take on such a huge.
I think I'd rather have the Y take on that responsibility.
Yeah. Or the school with us as a partner or something. And that's one of the things that came up. But this entity has been talking for a while about building a big complex. This may be a time to pull everybody together to have those conversations. So I'll start doing that up there, because I just don't see where, if the state's only going to give us 7% match, that we can afford to build it. This new complex on top of the hill.
So I don't think it sounds like we don't have to respond back to the state right away. It sounds like there is some time to evaluate what our options are as we move forward. And I would agree with you, Commissioner Netherland, that a $4.7 million funding source doesn't currently exist within the real estate second quarter % of the real estate excise tax. So let's kind of look and see what other options are available out there. John, you didn't have to respond or how quickly do you have to respond to RCO?
I'm looking at the schedule now, not for at least 6 months.
Okay.
So I think we have a little bit of time, but the sooner the better.
Can we look into because I hate to lose that money. Can you reach out and see if we could use it for the planning and design of the actual facility up there and what that would look like and the requirement if we did?
Yes, sir, I can do that.
If they're going to offer it to us, I'd love to see if we can utilize it.
Yes, sir, I can do that.
Commissioner Schutte, did you have any questions on that?
No questions. I think RCO made their decision for us, and we just got to dig into the details a little bit more and figure out where we go next.
Okay, great.
So the opposite of that, though, Commissioner Schutte, what do you think about the Union Park?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's no state support for it right now. So I think there's an opportunity for us to, keep up the conversation with the community and look for some interim projects there that we can handle internally and make some improvements where we can, and then continue to kind of refine the request to the state and see if it gets funded in a later round, or if additional funding comes available during the legislative session, then revisit it then. But I think it as there's no capacity to move forward with that project without the RCO funding support. So again, I think RCO made the decision for us, and we just have to keep at it.
Sounds good. Thanks for the direction to move forward on that. John, do you want to move on to the dog park update?
Oh, you're muted.
Oh yeah, you got to unmute.
Sorry. The group that had applied for the grant was turned down. I understand that most of the awards went to the East Coast. They currently have in their own fund a little over $9,000. The total estimate is 18,000. And so they have a gap there. They're continuing to move forward with that. And I know during the tour, it was mentioned that the county may be able to or may not be able to assist in them reaching their goal. So we're asking that there be a decision by the commission on whether we assist. If we do, what that looks like.
Commissioner Schutte, I'd be interested in the county kicking in up to 10,000, and we have the funds to do it. And I'd be supportive if you were. It's your district.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those simple things that we can do internally that doesn't cost a whole lot, but has I think a big return in the community. So I would be supportive of making up the difference that they were intending to get through the grant.
I think it's a great idea. I'm glad they brought it forward.
You're going to have some happy people.
Some happy dogs.
Yeah, I tried dealing with that one. They're going to be extremely happy. But it's time.
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes sense up there, and it's a good amount of space that will still be available for other uses. So it's a win-win for the community.
Agreed.
Super. The next item we have is the 2023 field use fee resolution and the revised field use agreement for Mason County Parks. It's a quick one. They're pursuant to the fees and change policy for the Parks and Trails Department, Section 4. Fees will be adjusted annually by using the Seattle Consumer Price Index, which for 2023 is 10.1%. So we're asking that this either be supported or a commission decision made.
Commissioners, I think, the community does want to hear these words, but I think we as commissioners know we're on the verge of some very negative times coming through, and those numbers are only going to increase in the future. That size of a number and request based on Seattle. I don't think we should be basing it on Seattle, but more than that, I'd love for us to start to have a conversation with finding a way to slow down the cost of field usage, especially with all the kids that we have using them here in Mason County. Since we do not have a lot of other parks for other purposes and a lot of other venues, this is their ability to get out there on the fields and to use them. And I think now would be a prudent time to do a cost savings to the community. They do pay taxes aside from the fees that they already pay. I think keeping those costs down or putting a moratorium, giving them a few years or something, may be a wise time to consider it.
The moratorium, I think that piqued my interest. I worry, I know we've all discussed it, and we're all worried about the next few years. And for entertainment, it's going to be expensive. So if they can get out and use our fields, as long as we can make sure that we're covering O&M, somehow, I think that I'd love to give our community a break.
Even if we were to do a 2 or 3 year where it was brought back before us again. Mandatorily brought back before us for a rediscussion at that point. I think that would be a great thing if we could put a freeze. But again, the people pay in many other ways other than just user fees for those parks. I got hit up by a port district that wanted us to give them Mason Lake Park. It's like there's a lot that goes into that. The people for all of Mason County pay, and they want to put a pay station on it, and I appreciate that, but everybody already pays. That's why we've not done that to this point. So the same goes for fields.
So I guess my concern is, in a similar way, we've handled fees, in the past, 08, 9, 10, and froze those, and then they don't get addressed for a decade, and then you're not keeping up with costs, and then that does have an effect on our ability to provide staffing and services. And so I think the 10% number obviously jumps out off of the page as a large increase. I'm not sure that group to group it's that excessive. I would like to have a little bit more information on that, but it stands to reason that our costs are going to continue to go up for additional use of those fields. And so I just want us to be mindful of that. If we don't revisit it and we do put a moratorium on it, that doesn't mean that the costs for those fields don't change, and that we're going to have to pay for it one way or another. So just being mindful of that, I'd have some concerns with a moratorium.
Well, and I agree with you, Commissioner, but that's why for myself, I'd want it mandatory that it must be revisited in 2 or 3 years, not just to leave it out there, because by then we'll know just how far things have shifted on us. But
I just think that I just think that it's always it's one of those things where you get into a pattern, and it's one of those things that's hard to break. Next year maybe it's 15% that we're needing to make up, or 20%, and it's just that climb gets really difficult. Whereas we see it on the utility side, where we have these policies built in where our rates are adjusted as a course of doing business. And so I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree in my heart. I think definitely want to be able to provide these opportunities and resources for kids and families in the community, but at the same time, I'm concerned long term about not making these adjustments. Mark.
Thanks, commissioners. I would agree with Commissioner Schutte that to not do something now is going to compound the problem in the future. I think that we have some options that we might want to think about, and maybe we put a maximum or a minimum amount within our policy that says that, it can't go over 8%, but it can't go beneath 2%. And so when you have the CPI that jumps out on a unique year and a unique time period that we're looking at right now, it doesn't completely, get into the double digits. But I would definitely recommend that the board continue to move forward with some type of fee increase. If you're not comfortable with the 10.1%, then let's find something that is more comfortable for you. But doing nothing and putting a moratorium on it for 3 years. Number one, I'm concerned because 3 years from now, I'll forget to bring it back to the board, and then it'll be, it might be something that compounds into the future. And then we have other fee structures that are also set based on CPI. And so where do we stop putting that moratorium on some of our other fees? So I would like to see us do something. I think that we can pull together some figures. John can maybe pull together some figures that shows what does a 10.1% increase look like? So if they paid $20 to rent the field, now they're paying $22. Is that something that makes it more palatable for the commissioners?
So John, in the briefing, you put 2,000. Is that 2,000 split up between how many groups would that $2,000 be split between?
And what, I'll have to look at that, Commissioner. We also submitted a fee schedule showing what last year's fees would be and then what the additional 10% fees would be. So we did submit that for your review as well.
Right.
And
That's on page 58.
yeah, and that the $2,000 was based on the average revenue from field rentals as a whole is about 20,000. So it, even whether we increase it or not, it's still, it's a small amount of the O&M of our park system, because we only charge for field use and then tournaments. So that's like at Sandhill and MCRA, because as you know, the other parks are all free to get into. So it's a very small part of paying for the parks.
And we do have, having looked at those parks, which again, I truly appreciate you guys taking us on those tours. They are in need of some help. And turf is not getting cheaper.
And we employ
Three and a
3.5
half.
people
3.5, right?
that take care of all those beautiful places. Do an amazing job. But
Well, and I know the commissioner are already aware of this, but again, that's what REIT and all these other things, a big majority are for. You know, the people are paying these taxes in different ways to utilize and have these fields and to use them. So we can always have more things on top of it, but that's where the majority of it comes from. So it just becomes on how much weight we put on the next child.
Well,
Because it's not spread out for everything.
To be fair, though, the REIT is paid when you sell or, you know, on housing transactions. So it's difficult to assume that everybody all the time is paying into REIT unless they're having that transaction.
No, but as a realtor, that was the reason why the realtors have always supported it, was for the use and the investment into parks. That was the main big thing. So bring in a quality of life. So it is still a tax that people pay when they come here, come in. It's quite a bit, but there's also other taxes that we pay and you pay that go into the use of these things as well.
So it looks like, so a lot of the fees are for cleanup, for field setup, and a few other things. So I do think that we need to, in order to keep our parks up, what if we, so instead of going the 10, do the 8%? Would that work?
We would need to amend the policy, because the policy just directs us to the Seattle CPI. So we could do something like Mark said, change the policy so you have latitude in what the increase would be. And then annually we would still look at it.
Right. Oh, you're muted.
Can you look at the all cities number and tell us what that would look like as well? Instead of Seattle CPI, all cities CPI?
So do you want us to bring back the actual fee setting policy with some options? And then we can go forward from there on what we want to do with the 2023 rates.
At the minimum, I would like to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I'd like to take a look at the all cities. But I agree with Commissioner Schutte also, though, that we have, in the past, the commission has decided not to raise fees like in utilities, and we're having an issue with that now. So keeping it or not addressing it now, I think would be an issue down the road too. So I'd like to see the other amounts too, if we could.
Okay, I'll work with John on that. Thank you.
The next item I have Commissioners, is the new pitching machines at the MCRA. I've provided you the estimate. We purchased those pitching machines in 1998. The estimated lifespan of them is 20 years, and we're over that. So the total cost to replace the 4 pitching machines that are down there with the freight installation and those items is $28,300, and it's currently budgeted out of REIT 2. So what we're asking is for review and approval to move forward with that.
Okay, commissioners?
We get the balls with it.
My issue is the same. As you've heard before, and Commissioner Trask, you were there. I have no problem spending this money. We have it in REIT to do it, but there needs to be some type of parity. There's nothing for those kids at that other ball field. Nothing at all.
Oh, and up at the other ball field too, there were 2 pitching, they were not built by our parks, but it's still on our property. I think that if we put in, and we do need to replace those because you guys are Band-Aid and keeping them together with Band-Aids. This may be another issue that we could, or another spot that we could take to, see if there's some other form of funding for machines up there. But I do think that the 2 areas up there by, what was that, field 6, that was built by that, I think you said the Scouts?
Little league.
Yeah, then those need to be repaired. And, going back to our previous conversation about parks and maintaining them, or putting in swings, things like that. I think that that's something that should be addressed also. So I would be, I guess, making the story shorter, I would support getting the new pitching machines and then repairing that pitching area, maybe even expanding it, see if we can expand it or something like that, until we can afford to get good machines up there. I would hate to take the machines that we have here and put them up there, because we would have the same issue.
Yeah, we don't have the infrastructure there to do it anyway. We'd need to have a building and the like. And at 28,000 again, we may be looking at 128 with a building and new machines up there, but that's a low cost considering how much overall we keep spending on the other fields. Just a little parity is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I would support replacing the machines and then working on the Sandhill, see what we can do up there.
Is there a different machine? And I don't know this. I think I remember going to a pitching machine years ago where you got to pick your speed. We could perhaps get away with a smaller footprint if we were to have maybe 2 machines like that could be utilized for many different things, except for you're still going to need softballs, completely different animals. So we'd have to have at least three areas, I think, instead of 6. I think is that what they have at MCRA? Is there 6 pins?
4, sir.
4?
I believe there's
1,
4.
2, 3. There was 2 there. 3 fast.
There's 4 pitching machine areas, I believe.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah. So I'm good with the replacement of these. I mean, I think, that has to happen. But at the same time, given the response that we got from RCO and the opportunity that we have to sort of reevaluate where we're heading with Sandhill, I think it's a great opportunity to think about how we could factor something like this into the future of that park. Would also be good to task our Parks Advisory Board with having some discussion about parity countywide with our facilities, so that we're making sure that folks have at least some equal access to amenities across the county. So, but that's a longer term discussion, and just for in a vacuum, what's in front of us right now, supportive of replacing the pitching machines at MCRA.
And in closing on that, I just want to say that although I appreciate all that, I've been here for a lot of years, and the problem that I'm always facing is that's just like anything else. That's always the same argument. We'll do this one here today, and we'll look at the other, and we'll try to do something in the future. And 10 years later, it's not. Yeah, we have certain amounts of money that are available. We should be looking to utilize some of those for some of these things, and this is a small low-hanging fruit. Like I said, the differences was definitely so major, obvious. Commissioner Trask, you were there. Am I overstating that, or is there really a big difference between the two?
Yeah, there are definitely differences. But I do think that we have priorities that we can address now. Like, removal of the rocks and providing a safe access between all the fields. So I think that there are things that need to be addressed, and fixing up the pitching for the little league did things like that. I think right now for me, our priority, absolutely, do I want to have parity throughout all 3 districts? I think that's important, but making sure that like Kevin's district, they don't have any baseball fields either. So taking a look, I like the idea of having our parks advisory group take a look and take them on a tour of the parks so that they can see them all too, and then they can bring back recommendations.
I'll also just say, I mean, up until a half an hour ago, we were ready to commit millions of dollars to Sandhill, and so it's it's a matter of what came back to us from the state, and we have to reassess now. And I think, Commissioner, if you have projects or ideas that you want to see happen there, let us know. I mean, we're willing to commit that money. We want to see those projects happen. We want to see that development happen, and I think you have a staff here who wants to support that. And so it's not that this isn't something that can't be done or won't be done for 10 years or whatever. I mean, provide us your input. Let us know what projects you want and how you want to fund it. I mean, if we were willing to put up millions of dollars to support Sandhill earlier this morning, I don't think that's changed.
No, and I agree, and I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, we're not going to just get parity. That's not going to happen. That's not what I'm shooting for. This is actually a project that I am asking for right now. It's a small project. If we were able to get something of the like of pitching machines up there, the cost level is very small in comparison. And to be able to get that would be a step towards getting some of the same functions. So I'm not asking for the commission to step up and do parity. And then there is that other request that we have executive session to discuss property and have a discussion of a different type of park system in the UGA.
If I could make a suggestion, commissioners, we can go out and price what one pitching machine and softball machine in an enclosure would cost, to give you an idea. And then you folks can go from there.
That'd be appreciated.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see those plans roll out. I'd love to talk about it and decide.
And that's what I'm asking for, actually. I'm not actually asking you to build it. We don't have a cost. But I would love for us to do what we just did and direct them to go and show us what it looks like. Give it to us as an option.
We can do that.
But we're good with going forward with upgrading the pitching machines at MCRA?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next thing on the list, commissioners, is Mr. William Long put an application in for the Mason County Parks and Board advisory group. And we're asking that you review his application and approve him to sit on the board.
Well, I think we've all met Mr. Long, and I think he's got great intentions, and I would love to see him on the Parks Advisory Board. Maybe he can help bring some suggestions for other parks as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open either way. I mean, I'd be open interviewing him. We haven't had that kind of a conversation with him yet, but I think his commitment to our parks is pretty obvious, and certainly appreciate him stepping up.
I'd be open to interviewing and ditto with the rest of it.
Great. Let's interview Bill and maybe get him in the next week or two.
The next thing we have on the list, commissioners, is a county alert system upgrade. We currently have Alert Sense, and over the years that we've had it, we only have about 3,000 county residents registered out of 66,000. So we've looked at other systems because we currently have a basic system, and the upgrade to Alert Sense is quite expensive, getting it to where it would be beneficial for a lot of organizations within the county to include county residents to register. So we're looking at what we did decide is once we looked at Alert Sense, moving it up to the level we believed it needed to be, it went from 15,520 a year to 27,000, which we believed was too much. So we looked at Code Red, which is an equatable system. It does virtually the same thing, but the costs are significantly lower. And the cost with Alert Sense had to do with what they called administrators, which our plan is to give organizations to include county departments the ability to send messages out to their own staff and throughout the county. And that the administrator, which we looked at 2 administrators per department, and then looking at our critical infrastructure partners as well, brought that cost up to 27,000 at the minimum, which could go up from there. However, Code Red puts us at $15,862. So they have unlimited administrators, and it's an equitable system. It's just not as expensive. So we're asking that we be allowed to switch from Alert Sense to Code Red and begin letting county partners and residents know that that's what we're doing and start the enrollment processes.
I think this is awesome. I get the Alert Sense. I'm two of those. I get them out for my county email and phone and my personal. And I really look forward to getting this out there for others to use and to. So at the meetings that we go to, what are they, at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning for the emergency planning?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody else sounded very excited about it also, all of our other partners, which include the fire department, public works and others. So I think if we can find a system that works well, and it sounds like this one is definitely a good option, I would support that 100%.
And
Yeah, I think, well, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I think the cost savings are definitely attractive. Just, one of the things that note in the briefing document is we have about 3,000 people enrolled currently in Alert Sense. I'm guessing those people will all be rolled over if we change systems. Is there a way to migrate them? And then the second part of that is how do we increase that number to get more people involved? And I know that doesn't necessarily tie into the platform or the change that we're making, but something maybe a little bit more big picture for us to consider as we bring the new system on board.
It is my understanding, sir, that we can roll them over. The other piece is if we've actually gone to the school districts who each pay their own amount for their own notification system, which is expensive and has less capability than ours, and they're more than excited to join our system, which then gives their parents and children as well into that, as we've gone to the fire districts and done the same thing. So even though initially we'll pick up the cost, we've talked to E911 where they're interested in partnering with us as well. So it looks like we'll be coming up with a plan to where we'll kind of break those costs down based on the amount of people that different departments and organizations have enrolled. But if we can keep the cost at 15,862, it's just above a couple $100 above what we're already paying for Alert Sense, which doesn't provide the same capabilities.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Levin, anything on that?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm agreeable with it.
The final thing I have is the distribution of the CERT trailers. I've kind of provided a list on where they're going. Because of the new equipment that's going in there, we just don't want to turn them over to fire districts without them signing for them and understanding the accountability piece. Along with the presentation, we provided the inventory of each CERT trailer. So that you have as well. Right now, we're looking at putting a CERT trailer at the port until we can find a place to put that. We're going to put one in North Mason up at the fire authority there. They're willing to sign for that and maintain that. And the second one we'll keep here until we can find where we'll put it. It takes a commitment of fire districts to say, yes, we want it, number one. Two, to sustain and maintain it and to secure it. And then we're requiring a quarterly inventory, which we'll do with each of our partners that accept the trailers so that we can ensure the equipment is serviceable and accounted for.
So John, is there a way to get one over in the Hoodsport, Lake Cushman area?
Absolutely. It's getting the fire district to commit to storing it, securing it, maintaining it. Because we do have a lot of growing CERT teams out in that area. So it's available, and we're continuing to work with the fire chiefs to get the other two deployed, because it doesn't make sense just to keep it in storage here or at the port. But again, it takes a commitment from a fire district, from our perspective, to do the services that's required to keep them deployable.
So is there a way to contact someone that's with the CERT? Maybe they have an area that is, secure enough. Because they're ultimately they're the ones that will probably be reaching out and using them. So if it's not just a fire district, if we could reach out to maybe some of the CERT members or search and rescue, some of those members, maybe they do have a secure area where we could put one over in that area.
And we're reaching out to them, ma'am. Lake Cushman area, and there's several different housing complexes out there and HOAs that are interested in starting CERT. So we plan to get it deployed. It's just at this point, we're not comfortable putting it somewhere until we know that their CERT team's going to be sustained. They're going to link with the county. And the other piece is the National Incident Management System requires that all organizations, whether a nonprofit or not, sign a letter of intent or commitment to implement NIMS, the National Incident Management System. So we're trying to get those CERT teams to provide their letter from their associations saying that they'll meet that criteria. And once we get that, then we'll have a better picture of who we can deploy those trailers to.
That's perfect. I appreciate that.
John, are there any potential concerns with where those end up in terms of in a disaster accessibility? So I'm thinking about the weather event that we had at the end of last year into early January, and depending on where that is located, like up at Lake Cushman, within the HOA there, versus being at the fire station, in terms of accessibility and priority road clearing and just availability of resources coming up that way, so that it's not cut off from where other resources might be coming from. Or any concerns or thoughts about that?
Well, sir, our ideal place to put them is with fire districts, because to be honest, the size of our department right now, we have probably pretty close to over 300 volunteers. So that number is continuing to grow. And CERT's one of those organizations that want to be used, whether there's a disaster or not. And a good example is they could be used for Oyster Fest or virtually anything that the county's doing that's building up a population of the public to attend. So it's them being able to be managed by an organization that sees value with them, if that makes sense. And traditionally, we try to link them with fire districts, because then they can go through some of the training with the fire districts, as well as if the fire districts have something that's coming up, they can work with them, and they're better at managing volunteers. So that's our ideal spot. to put them, because traditionally those fire districts and stations are cleared. So if there is a snow event or an incident, they traditionally receive assistance first because they are first responders. So that would be the ideal spot to put it.
Yeah, I would just, given what our primary road operations are in an event like that, I would just want to be able to prioritize, making sure that we're putting them in places that are going to get that attention first so that it can be accessed.
Yeah, so we're working on that now.
Great.
And that's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Jen, are you ready to jump into ARPA?
Ready.
All right.
Good morning. I'm going to share my screen, commissioners. I think it's this one. Yes. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that we used last time to look at the awarding of the second round of ARPA funding. And Kate went in and made some notes after talking to people. I think that's where we left off. We wanted a little bit more information on some of these projects. And so if you want to go down first and look at where we're at. So we have available at the last briefing, we had $6,342,857 available, but we have two projects that are complete. And so we added that amount into the available funding, which brings us to $6,393,644. Oh, sorry, not that number. So $6,393,644, not the 6.392. That's the amount of the total of the suggested award here. So anyway, we have the vehicle camera installs. That project is complete, and that adds in $14,211 into our 6342857 number. And then we have the prosecutor's office second floor expansion. Kelly Frazier did a great job. Kelly Frazier and his team on that project. The amount awarded was $75,000, but we have $36,576 left that they didn't spend after finishing that project. So that $6,342,857 plus the $50,787 from those two completed projects brings us to the $6,393,644 number to be awarded. So looking at this, there was a question about the IT, the infrastructure upgrade. Whether or not that 425,000 was a solid number, and TJ has said that it is a good solid number, and that we would need that amount in order to do the entire county campus for the infrastructure. Otherwise, we would be leaving buildings out, I guess, is my understanding. Another question was on the Belfair water backup generators, if they really needed the 300,000 or if they could make do with 200,000. And Dale with the Belfair Water District said that he was going to reach out to his supplier to get an updated quote, and he felt that he could contribute 50 to 60,000 to the project, that Belfair Water could. So that makes it sound to me like he would need at least 250,000. The ask was 300,000 total. And right now in our average, we have about 267,000 as the suggested amount for Belfair Water.
Just to add a little bit, Jen, here, I received an email from Dale on the 27th of September saying that he had reached out to the generator suppliers because he wanted to verify that those prices that he had were still good. He said that if he didn't get enough money, then he would not get generators for all of them. He would have to prioritize which wellheads he would get generators for. But as soon as he receives those numbers, he's going to forward that information on to me, and I believe the commissioners will also get a copy of that from Dale. So we should be getting some updated numbers this week.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next note that we have in here was from Bo with North Mason Fire. He had gave us a lot of information about the mobile integrated health program startup. He had asked for 337,000, and
so I can add a little bit to this one too, Jen, if you want.
okay, sure.
So I believe Commissioner Netherland is well aware of this program that he's putting together. I actually had a great discussion with Bo, and I had an opportunity to update Sharon. I don't believe that I've had an opportunity to update Kevin on this yet, but really
I met with Bo last week, so I'm all up to speed.
Okay. So what a program. I mean, it sounds really interesting. What their goal is to avoid having individuals go to the emergency room when they can actually provide a mobile care that would help those individuals get through the minor issues that they have. So the amount that he's asking for here would actually be the capital costs associated with starting up the program, and operational costs would be spent utilized by the fire district own funds, as well as some funds that they're going to receive from the hospital.
Okay, so it would be capital costs. So that means that we could spend it pretty quickly, right?
Correct.
Which I love that, of course, because then we don't have to drag it out and wonder if it's going to be spent in between 2024 and 2026. Because as I mentioned, I think every time, if we don't allocate the funds by December 31st of 24, we can't reallocate them. So if we don't end up spending them, we lose that funding.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and in that note, you can see the capital costs are the van, the mobile lab, so like a mobile blood lab, cardiac monitoring equipment, cancer screening tools, phones, tablet, video monitoring resources.
And it's not just the emergency room cost, it's the cost and the time that it takes for them to pick somebody up, go out and get them, pick them up, take them to these emergency rooms when it's something they could have taken care of right there. That's a lot of hours of people out of contact, basically, from being able to help somebody else.
So I also asked Bo to verify his number. He said he does not need more than the 337,000 he requested, Jen. So you could actually, if you want, revise the amount to what he actually requested.
okay. And commissioners, you're okay with me dropping that number
Yes.
down? Okay.
Yep, absolutely. That's the question I was going to ask. So thanks for asking it, Mark.
Okay, so then the next one that we have is on the Housing Authority unit renovations. So they had asked for $1,208,790 in their ARPA request, and all three commissioners have agreed tentatively to 750,000 each here. I mean, not each, but in total. Sorry. So in the note here, we got some information. There's 109 units to remodel. If they don't get the full amount, it sounds like they can just make do with what they receive.
So Jenna, if you want, I actually talked with Mr. Pinter about this one, so I have a little more information on that.
Okay.
He had 109 units that he wanted to update. He's going to utilize his internal staff. So he's actually going to be hiring a carpenter, carpet layers to actually work for the Housing Authority. and they would go in as rooms became available, remodel that, utilizing this money, they would remodel those rooms with new flooring, replacing any sheetrock that needs to be replaced, obviously painting and doing some upgrades. So if he didn't receive the entire amount that he asked for, then he would then he would do as many rooms as he could with what he received. I also reached out and spoke to our lobbyist and to Frank and said, hey, if you see alternative funding sources available for this type of work, please let us know. And she's going to keep an eye out for it. And Frank said that he is ready to apply if we send him some information.
Okay. So, and commissioners, if there's anything that you want to add while we're going through these, please jump in. This one is the DCD records archival and scanning. And so Kel's on vacation. She'll be back. She's back now. So she's
actually on the call right now, Jen.
Okay.
Hello,
Great.
I'm here.
Hi, Kel. So yeah, if you want to add anything in there, please feel free, if that's okay with you, commissioners.
Yeah.
Are you there, Kel?
Yeah, so I know Kevin had some questions. I didn't know if Kevin, we didn't get a chance to talk. So if you have any specific questions about this, happy to answer.
No, I didn't have any questions. I wanted to wait and see where we were with other things and then revisit. So I guess that's what we're doing now.
Okay.
So right now we have Commissioner Trask and Commissioner Schutte at 542,000 in the amount that they want to dedicate, and then Netherland at 300,000. So that brings the average to 461,000 roughly.
If they're still the same, I'm willing to come up on that one.
Okay, to the 542.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and while we were talking about coming up to the number, that's when it was we wanted to wait and see. Commissioner Schutte, where are you at now? Are you still?
Well, I guess where are we in aggregate? Because I mean, we're just kind of going through. We have more, so whatever we come up to there, if it is the full 542, that's going to affect whatever's downstream. So
Yes.
So right now, the total of these projects, the average that's been dedicated tentatively dedicated is $6,027,667. So that's leaving 315,000 out of the 6342857 number. And that doesn't include that 50,000 that has been that will need to be reallocated. So that's where we're at, Commissioner.
So at the $542,000 level, we still have a cushion of 315 plus 50.
At the level of, where are we at? 461,000, we still have that cushion.
Okay, so you would so if you added 80,000, that would come off of the 315. Okay, yeah, he's willing to come up.
Come up.
So yeah, that leaves us now with 234,000.
Plus 49?
Sorry, what was that?
Plus 49?
No. So that if I plug in 542,000 on that brings it up to 542,000 for DCD. Then no, you're talking about this here.
Yeah.
This column, I'm not sure where, this is just the original, I think, suggested amount. It's kind of confusing. I'll hide that column.
So the 6108 is the accurate number where we're at with the money that's still going to need to be reallocated.
Yeah, we're at 234,000, and then we have the 50,000 that I didn't include in this allocation amount.
That's what I was saying. That's why the 49,000, I was counting basically 50,000. So,
Gotcha.
so with what we have normally, there's 234 that still could be allocated, but it could actually be 284 because there's another 50 that we haven't put back into the pot yet. Is that
Correct.
okay?
So, so bringing that down or up to 542,000. We don't really have any other updates besides, I did talk to Terry Drexler this morning about the Shelton Young Adult Transitional Housing Project. And so right now we have 500,000 dedicated to that project. And she had just stated that she wanted to make sure that we could front the money, which I don't think would be a problem, like instead of it being reimbursed, as long as we write the contract that way, that should be okay.
Well,
And do you want to have the conversation in the next piece, or do you want to have the conversation about the ADA access now?
because she was requesting additional funds for an elevator, correct?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Is
I mean, that's up to you. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
well, you have two different briefing documents. That's why I was asking you if you wanted to talk about it now or wait until after this and then talk about the reallocation of future funds and do it separate. Which did you want to do?
I mean, we can talk about that now.
We
Yeah,
did-
we received, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I apologize, Jen. I interrupted you. Please, I think you're going to say the same thing I was going to say.
I was just going to say we can talk about that now. I did talk to the treasurer's office also on Thursday. They mailed out letters stating that there were ARPA funds available in the amount of $90,000 is what we had dedicated to that project. But they received updated foreclosure amounts from utilities, and it's $108,652.68. That's the amount of the letters that that went out for potential foreclosure amounts. And so they're wondering how they allocate that money if it comes in. And so I told them, you know, first come, first serve is how I would do it. But I said that I would ask if there was any additional interest in handing out more money for the utility foreclosures or potential utility foreclosures. So we would need about 18,652 if everybody that needed that money applied for it.
And those funds can only be used, they have to verify or that it's because of COVID, correct?
Yes, they would have to attest to that. So they don't necessarily have to prove it, but they would have to sign the attestation form stating that it was because of it was COVID related.
As we've seen with the PUDs, that's a lot harder than it looks. And they had people working on that specifically to do it. I don't see the treasurer working on that to do it. You don't have the staff. So I think the numbers that actually apply are going to be less than what we're thinking.
I tend to agree with you, especially seeing how the property tax ones are going. They haven't allocated all of that funding that's available.
Yeah.
Or they haven't used all of that allocated funding that's available for the property taxes. So I'm assuming that the utility ones will go in the same direction, and they won't end up using all of it. But I mean, potentially they could. But I mean, at that time they could come back and ask for more, because like we're seeing in these projects, you know, funds aren't being spent in full always, so there might be some more available.
Right, and as long as we get them dedicated by the end of 2024, I'm sure that some of the projects are going to be finished before then. I wish we had a timeline. I think I saw Terry on here. a timeline for the elevator to make it ADA. If we knew when, because I can't
Hi,
remember.
this is Terry.
Hey, Terry.
Hi. So if we, depending on how long it'll take to permit the project, we hope to be into construction by third quarter of 2024 or 2023. I'm sorry, 2023.
Third quarter of 2023.
Yes,
And so then the project would be finished before 2026, for sure.
definitely, definitely.
So do we want trying to decide, I would love to do it because that's gonna provide some absolutely necessary space for some of our youth.
Well, and if you don't mind, Commissioner, if we're going to talk about that specifically, the reason why I'm so supportive is I think we should always take some monies of these when available and try to make sure we get some for ADA or DD for the different parts of our community that are going to need it. This checks one of those boxes simply to be able to provide ADA access, I think is very important. And I think we should do percentages at least unwritten somewhere. This is a good one. So I'd be supportive of that. I was thinking using it with the monies that come back in, but I'd be supportive even on an increase here if that's what was necessary.
Right.
So-
That's kind of the direction I was headed to. If we knew, I wish we had a crystal ball so that we could see how many projects or how much money we're going to have coming back in. But this is so important for the youth center. I would support it now if that's agreeable with others.
How much was it again? It was
222,000 is the ask.
so we have it there.
Mhm.
I would be supportive of putting it in now. If we're all agreeable on all these other ones, we have that money available. So it would be just an increase in that line, but I'd like it, if we did do this, I'd want to make sure that it is specified that that specific amount is used for the ADA. Because that's the reason why I am moving forward with increasing the amount under that line if we did.
So breaking it out into a separate project or a specific project.
Either that or putting it in, making sure in the verbiage that
Okay.
we know that we're giving money for ADA accessibility, and that's what this is used for. So if something happens and they don't do an elevator, we need to have another discussion.
Great. I'm also supportive.
Okay, of the full 222,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we can write the contract up, having the two different elements of that contract. I think that might be the best way to go. What do you think, Mark?
Great idea.
Okay, great. Then it will be one project under ARPA, and if we, go over under on that, it won't be money that we have to refund. Is that does that sound reasonable? That we can kind of use that 500,000 as
Yeah.
yeah, leverage, I guess, in there. Okay.
And if we were to take the other 50,000 that we have coming back in, add it back in and put that towards, I'd be okay if we wanted to put it towards those generators. If the other commission, it'd be me coming closer to their match or their number, that would pretty much allocate us out. And I think we should bring this forward to the board and close this out.
Okay. I would support that.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So
Commissioners.
Thanks,
so-
Terry. Appreciate everything you and Susan are doing with the Youth Connection. That's a great project.
Thank you. This is going to help tremendously.
She worked pretty hard this weekend too. She was sweating away.
Great. So commissioners, did you want to go ahead and try to allocate the rest of the funding? You know, there'd be roughly 63,000.
I thought we were talking about putting that towards the generators, bringing that.
Oh,
number up.
okay. Sorry,
And then-
I was composing my note in my head when you were talking about the generators. Okay, so the remaining funding would go towards those generators for that project, the 62,000.
And that bring it up to where they need to be pretty much.
Okay, great. So we'll dump that on to the housing project, and then we will throw this on.
Belfair water, Jen.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
to Belfair
Yeah,
Water.
Belfair
Okay,
water.
sorry.
And I think you already,
Oh, this one. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we
You
will,
just changed it to 300,000 across the board.
okay. Okay, so that'll leave us with roughly 30,000 to allocate. So so did you want to do that now, or do you want to leave that for potential projects that come up? How do you want to handle that?
I have some smaller things I'd like to look at, but I like Commissioner Schuette's comment the last time when we look at these ones for the sheriff's department, that we look at it during our budget instead. So I have no problem with just leaving this here. There'll be other monies that come back, I'm sure. And then we maybe have enough to do another project at a future time. I'm in favor of just moving forward with what we have.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yep, same.
Okay, perfect. Then we will put this on the next briefing or action agenda and get this moving. So thank you very much. That was pretty easy, commissioners. So looking at the next portion of the ARPA, which we looked at part of it, the ADA elevators, elevator, I'm sorry, not elevators, but we do have some of our projects that have not had any funding spent yet. So Kate reached out. We have the Hood Canal, the Eldon Fiber build, and that one is started and approximately 60% complete. We have the PUD 3 Belfair substation. That one's allocated at 1.5 million. That one is less than 50% complete, but they're anticipating it will be done in Q2 of 2024. We have the PUD 1 Agate Beach project, and that project is started, but less than 50% complete. The Belfair Water, the new well, they've signed the contract and are hoping to be able to drill the well this winter. And then we have the PUD projects. We have Beards Cove, which is not started at all, but it's they're hoping to complete it in summer of 23 or summer of 24, which makes me a little nervous that it's you know, either this coming year or the year after. Then we have the Belfair Pump Station number 1. That one is not started and anticipated to complete in early summer 23. And the Belfair Pump Station number 3, that one has been started. That project has started, and it's anticipated to be complete in early spring of 23. And the last outstanding project that has no money spent is the Lakeland Pump Station. That one has started. That project has started, and and it is complete. Okay, so so just wanted to give you an update on those projects, commissioners. Any questions or things you want us to follow up on at this time on those?
Sounds great.
Okay, so we'll keep reaching out to find out where those are at on a regular basis. So that's all that I have. Do you have anything you want to add, Mark?
Nope, I think you did good. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you. I'll stop
Jennifer,
my share.
just one quick question for you. So just looking at this, do we know where the Port of Allen is with their water project? Did we hear back from them?
I don't think so. I think if it was not on.
No, we did. We provided them with the money and the contract, and they were gonna start drilling a new well. That was the original distribution, Port of Allen.
The 100,000.
They needed,
They got somebody from the state.
And we made up the difference.
Yeah.
that was brought back before the board, and yes, the board made up the difference. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
I know we approved it. I was just asking if we had heard any updates on where they were with the project.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, the last time I talked to Port of Allen, they were ready to move forward. So
Okay,
I can reach out and get an update.
great.
So the next, let me finish my note here. So the next item I'm bringing forward is to request that HR has the ability to use some of the salary savings from vacancies that they've had in 2022 to bring on an extra help person to start doing some scanning within HR. Mary's here if you have any questions to ask her about the project, but we have a lot of sensitive documents in our HR facility that are at risk of being destroyed in the event of any type of fire or an individual breaking into the facility. I mean, there's some pretty sensitive records and information that's in there. And Mary would really like to image those and organize them electronically so that they're accessible as we're going through union negotiations. We're often looking for specific documentation and what's in a union contract, and having all of those things digitized and at their fingertips is super beneficial.
I'm supportive.
Well, I think it's a great idea. We're doing it with every other department, or we're trying to do all the other departments. So let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well.
Great, thank you. That's all we had for support services.
Great. Commissioners, any questions or items for discussion?
No.
Okay. All righty, moving on to Public Works. Loretta.
Morning. First up, commissioners, we have 2 action items that we're asking to put on the agenda, and Mike will share those with you.
Good morning. First up, we have a resolution to create CRPs for 4 different projects. Number 1 is Bear Creek Dewato Tunerville Bridge. That's 100% funded through bridge preservation funding. Number 2 is Little Egypt. There's North Fork Goldsboro Bridge. That's to replace the cap on that. That too is 100% funded. Number 3 is Kamilci Point Road Improvement Project. That's one of the ones that we have as a backup for STP project for just in case the city doesn't meet their obligation. And then number 4 is our main project. What we're requesting here is to change the milepost, correct the milepost from Mason Lake Road to 6.23 to 7.83. This shortens it up to match the available STP funding. All these projects are on our annual program and our 6-year tip. We're going to move forward in 2023.
Sounds good.
Okay, any questions, commissioners, or? Okay.
The next item I have is a private line occupancy permit for Mr. Tim McDonald. He owns property there on Great View Loop Road. He likes to run some utilities across the road, water line, septic line, power line, and cable. And it's been reviewed by Terry Conley, and he recommends that we approve this.
That's good.
Commissioners, all good?
Yep.
Woo.
Thank you, commissioners. Next up, we have some applications for Tiff Cap, and I have a quickie update for you. We did receive an email from Adam Birnbaum, who withdrew his application, and he's got other commitments. So, and then a correction. So our admin folks had it right the first go around, and I made a change, but Jason Weber actually resides within District 2, and that's in the Shelton UGA. So that would not be able to, what we're looking for there in terms of a vacancy is a rural representative. So at this time, we are recommending setting up an interview for Blair Sherman, who has applied and would represent District 3 and the city of Shelton.
I welcome an interview. I think that'd be great.
And commissioners, I also did speak with Dale Elmland, who was recently appointed to the Housing Authority, and Dale is also interested in making application as a Tiff Cap member. And Dale would be within the, let's see, Commissioner District 2 Rural. So that is a position that he could potentially fill as well.
Great, we'll look forward to his application.
Okay. So that's all I have on Tiff Cap. And then just a couple of updates. Richard has an update on our solid waste transfer stations and vacations and sick leaves, and we've had some interruptions in service and expect to in the coming week as well.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully you can hear me, right? All right. So yeah, we've lost one of our we didn't lose her. Actually, we know where she's at. She's not with us anymore. One of our solid waste booth attendants. So that's like a 20% drop in our staff. And we have a lot of vacations, and we've got a lot of sick leave recently that has left us closing down some of our facilities. And to deal with this, we're actually cross-training one of our clerical staff to be able to go out and fill in when necessary. We have interviews scheduled for Wednesday. I think we're interviewing 7 potential solid waste booth attendants. So we're hoping to get this corrected as soon as possible. It's been a real rough last couple of weeks, especially for Kevin, our solid waste manager, who's just been doing the best he can with some pretty tough situations here.
Wow, 7 applicants. That's pretty darn good.
Well, yeah, it really is. It's better than normal. So I'm happy about that.
Richard, is it time for us to have a conversation and perhaps consider a very small, like 0.25? We got to find out where we are on when it comes to having to pay benefits out or not. But a 0.25 or something like that you have as an on-call?
You know, I'm right now I'm willing to do just about anything to improve this situation. So to me, that's not out of line at all. I mean, as far as budget goes, we can do it. We've seen a 40% increase in just the amount that we've been handling. So yeah, budget wise, we're doing better than we normally or
That's what I was thinking.
have.
And I was wondering if it's time to have that conversation, but find out, please, exactly where the cutoffs are for insurance and stuff. Maybe something we have to do policy wise for us to make sure that we don't, you can take somebody in at a 0.25, but if they're fully burdened, it's a lot of money. You're better off just having another position, but.
Right. I'll stay in touch with human resources and we'll figure this out.
Commissioners, and that is something that Richard and Kevin have been evaluating already. And we have utilized a on-call position in the past. It's just kind of a challenge, as you might imagine, to keep that position.
Yeah.
And have somebody readily available, because typically it's something that is a fill-in, or perhaps they have another job as well. So but we're at the point where everything and anything is helpful. So definitely welcome suggestions, and we'll keep going.
Can I add something to that also? I thought that we had done away with the that part-time position because it was really hard to keep people apprised of the operations and changes in operations if they weren't on, at least half-time, or, if they weren't here a lot. So
that's true.
I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, but if we pick up a retired person, wants a little extra or something, it's better than closing down facilities. If we could have it as an option. Anytime we close down facilities, it's going to be some of those smaller ones. But the interesting part is they're the ones most in need. You have one out there by Hoodsport or whatever. They're a ways away from everything, and they're actually in a rural area where they're actually cleaning up their stuff and don't have as much access. So just my 2 cents, it makes sense to keep them open if it's possible.
It isn't popular to close any of them. I'll tell you, it's just not a popular thing to do. And you're right, those smaller stations, I mean, they've got 2 days a week usually that they're open. So people know that, they're used to it, they bank on it, they schedule around it. And then if it's not open, let me tell you personally, you hear about it. So like I said, we are doing our best. I'm not against any sort of suggestions or I'm open to all that we can do to improve this situation.
Sounds good.
All right, and then Justin has a quickie update. Commissioners, we had a small overflow at the Virgil lift station, and Justin's here to share a little bit of information on that.
Yeah, morning, commissioners. Well, almost afternoon. At the Virgil lift station there in Allen, we had about a 50-gallon-ish spill was estimated. It was actually, we were doing lift station checks earlier that day, and pumps, everything were running perfectly fine. Not exactly sure what happened. The result we're thinking is that the float systems there were full of grease and basically malfunctioned, and then therefore we just had that small spill. Thankfully, there was somebody walking their dog down there. I was like, "Hey, I saw that something's just coming up out of the manhole lid here," and so he called immediately. We were able to get there really fast. Thankfully, there was a little runoff in the storm drains. We did get the call, but the call was like 4 hours after the spill had happened. So we've got to do a little bit of troubleshooting on why the alert system there took 4 hours. So again, that's something that hopefully is not going to be a hard fix, but we're definitely trying to see what's going on.
Which one is that? Was that?
That's at Virgil. It's on it would be like Eugenia place down there in Allen on the golf course.
It's a brand new lift station, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. The brand new one down there. That's why I didn't know.
Division 14. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thankfully it was, I mean, it's never thankful to have any spill at all, but we were able to get there as quick as possible and really kind of address what was going on. So any questions?
No, thanks for being on top of it.
As operations staff's doing a great job. So.
All right. Just a couple of follow-up items, commissioners, on some citizen requests. Mike and team have been out to take a look at drainage along in the Golden Pheasant neck of the woods. Responding to the Kamilci Point request about speed limit reduction and pedestrian traffic. And we're going out to Caldervin Creek later this week to take a look at potential for some gravel removal under the bridge prior to the wet season approaching. And you may recall that we've got a bumpy ride at the Cole Road Railroad crossing, and we made a grant application some time ago there and did not receive funding, but we're going to implement a temporary crossing fix there in the meantime and continue to seek some grant funds.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Mike, any other details on the Golden Pheasant, or commissioners, do you any more detail, or move along?
We took a look at the Golden Pheasants and met with the DOT about that. Basically, that water is just a balance from one side of the highway to the other. There's no real path for it to flow, and so the DOT is out there actually today working on the east side of the road to clean up the basin there, and hopefully it'll reduce some of the flooding on the west side of the road. But basically it's a trapped system, and it's been that way for quite some time. So we have not reached out to Sherry, but we sure can and discuss that with her if that's what you'd like us to do.
She'd probably appreciate an update.
Okay, we will. And then on Lynch Road, we have this petition to request to reduce the speed limit from 30 mile an hour down to 20 and down to 10 in some places. We did some analysis there, and the 85 percentile speed is about 35 mile an hour, so that's within reason. The request also was concerned about pedestrians along the shoulder of the road being no shoulder. And that's something we can take a look at right away wise and get that on our maintenance program. If there is pedestrians using the road quite a bit, then that's something we can do, some widened shoulders and maybe even pave widened shoulders, such as what we're doing in other areas. So we'll take a look at that too.
Great, thank you.
And then Cole Road, the railroad crossing itself, I think Grant said he's going to try to get that tomorrow. And start working on that. So we're just going to cut out 4, 5, 6 feet of area and repatch it with asphalt. It still will move eventually, but it'll give us a reprieve for 5 or 6 years or whatnot until we actually get a grant to actually replace the whole crossing. So,
great, thank you.
Thank you. I've spoken up.
Commissioners, anything we're missing on your tickle list that we need to be following up on?
Please remember South Side and the conversation, what that looks
Yes.
like.
Yep.
Okay.
Also the Port of Grapeview, and just what those steps look like, if you don't mind. Send me some emails, keep me in the loop of what we're doing, what it's looking like, and what they need to do and what we need to do to move forward with the conversation, at least.
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners, for Loretta and Mike, Richard? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Okay, commissioners, we've hit the end of our agenda. Is there anything else for our discussion before we adjourn for the day?
Nope. Mary, are you coming over here or am I going over there?
I will come over there.
See you shortly.
Great. Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and second that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and we are adjourned.
Have a good one.